article Startling Finds on Teenage Brains by Paul Thompson, it is stated that a 14-year-old was tried as an adult and found guilty for second-degree murder and killing of his teacher. The kid didn't really know what he was doing. He just had a gun. He thought it was a toy. He was interested in it. He had no intention of killing his teacher. He just wanted to show off what he had. Personally, when I was a kid, my mom used to be in the LAPD, and she would always clean her gun at night, and I got interested, and I was like, oh, Mom, what's that? Can I help? But I had no, realization that machinery can kill a person. I was just like, let me play with that. That looks fun. And that brings me to my claim as adolescents are incapable of meeting the mental requirements of being tried as an adult. And through that, there's 3 supporting claims. 1, their brains are undeveloped. 2, their upbringing has caused them to act out in unruly ways. And 3, society as a whole would be better off rehabilitating these kids instead of locking them up in jails. So their brains are undeveloped. As kids, they're less knowledgeable about everything that goes on because of their brain develops slowly. So the frontal lobe is where most of your higher thinking goes on, as in knowing right from wrong. So kids, they don't know right from wrong. They just go on with their day thinking, oh, I'm going to do whatever I want because, I don't know, it's not bad. But they don't know that that's not okay. So they're incapable of developing good reasoning behind their decisions and actions. Their judgment is slightly off. They can't think for themselves necessarily. They just think before they don't think before they act, they just do. So in my second claim, their upbringing has caused them to act out in unruly ways. So they may have grown up in a home that necessarily didn't teach them proper rules and stuff. So maybe their parents were really strict or they didn't care for them. So the kids were just like, all right, well, I'm going to do what I want to do and not listen. But they weren't taught oh, guns are bad, or stealing is bad, or copying someone else's work is a crime. They just did it and they didn't know that it's an issue. Also, when kids are young, they go through lots of behavioral issues, and they have disorders, they have anxiety, or they have phobias of stuff, panic disorder, so it makes them nervous and they end up harming someone else or harming themselves, but they don't realize it because this disorder has taken over them. Or they're depressed and they feel like that's all they can do. By me doing this, it'll show that, oh, I need to, I don't know. What am I trying to say here? These decisions they make through their disabilities, you could say, it's just a way of them acting out and trying to get attention. But by them acting out, it doesn't necessarily mean oh, me killing this person is what's right and it'll get me attention. No, they're trying to get attention, but they don't mean to harm. And my third claim is society as a whole would be better off rehabilitating them. So instead of putting them in jail, since their brains aren't fully developed, they're still able to learn from their mistakes. As in adults, they're already grown up, they really don't care, their decision was their decision. But kids can learn. There are places for adolescents to go rather than being locked up in jail cells all their lives. They can go to rehabilitation homes, they can have counseling, they can have mandatory meetings such as Alateen meetings. I don't know if you guys have heard of them, but they are meetings and they do help kids. I've been to a few of them. And it's a great place for the kid to get comfortable and if they don't grow up in a place where they feel safe, Alateen is a place for them to feel safe, and they don't have to act out to get the attention they need. They just go to meetings and they're good. they learn nothing being locked up in jail. They can learn a lot more from being rehabilitated or going to counseling or meetings. And they're also not stable, like mentally, to be locked up in jail. Like, these adults are like able to like control the little kids, I guess, and like overrule them, and they just get scared and they don't learn anything. But yeah, basically, kids should not be tried as adults because they're not mentally capable of being able to stand up in trial against adults or like handle what a judge is trying to put them up against. So yeah.
All right, Sarah, you start with a pretty effective claim, or an explanation of responsibility with your example. The kids don't understand responsibility. What I don't get a very clear sense of is what the controversy on this is. Are there, in fact, kids that are being charged as adults? You make it sound like some kid lifts a bicycle and he's being charged with a felony and sent to San Quentin. I don't know what it is you're talking about. Most of the kids that I haven't researched it. I didn't look at the statistics, so I'm telling you my assumption. I had debates on this in the past. Most of the kids that I've heard of being charged as adults are usually charged under very specific circumstances. For instance, that they are engaged in gang crime and they're committing a murder based on retaliation or based on reckless disregard for the safety of others, and they do it frequently after having been convicted of a variety of other crimes. So what you need to do is you need to tell us that the group of people who are being charged as adults by, when they are kids, that they are the ones who are incapable. I don't think anybody disputes that 5-year-olds shouldn't be charged as adults. There's no controversy on that. The controversy is over whether or not the kids who are being charged as adults, are they capable of this? And none of your information talks about any context argument there. It's all without context, which makes it hard to evaluate whether your argument is reasonable. There are a whole bunch of claims that say that, you make a claim about brain development, but I didn't really hear much evidence about how quickly the brain develops, when it develops, and how developed it needs to be in order to make a decision about right or wrong. You make an assertion that says, so the kids can't understand right or wrong. Just as a parent, sitting out there, depending upon what the issue is, kids know right or wrong. They know that they're not supposed to do something, that it's wrong for them to do something by the time they're 4. Now, that doesn't necessarily mean that they would know all those kinds of things, but we don't have a context for understanding this argument because you haven't told us who it is we're really talking about. So are we talking about 8-year-olds who don't understand the dangers of pushing their friend off of a building? Or are we talking about 14 and 15-year-olds who are in gangs and are selling drugs and engaged in that sort of behavior? Or are we talking about 16-year-olds, for instance, who've been given the gun and sent in by the gang to commit the murder because they know that they won't be charged as adults? Again, without any context, it's hard to tell where your argument applies. And like I said, there's not really any evidence on this idea. It's just your assertion on this particular point. The same thing is true with rehabilitation. You give a whole list of ideas about rehabilitation, and the closest you come to citing evidence here is some experience with Alateen that addresses issues where the kids might feel more secure. And I'm back to the issue, is it really their insecurity that's causing them to be selling drugs or to be stealing, that sort of thing? What is the context that we're talking about here? And I don't know. And I'm not, you say the kids go to prison, they won't learn. Are they supposed to learn in prison? What is it they're supposed to learn? Not to do the crime, I guess. So if you say that they won't learn that, then you've got to have some reason for believing that, and there's got to be some data on it. If there's a high recidivism rate, for instance, for kids that are sent to prison as adults, that would be maybe the kind of evidence that would solidify that particular point. All right, thank you.